Greetings everyone. In this video I want to talk about what your pendulum is to be used for and what it is not to be used for.
Greetings! This infinite source truth is made possible by the generous contributions and support of viewers like you. Please consider making a contribution now. Thank you.
Alright, I have said this before, but I'm going to do this video covering it again. Your pendulum is your source self connection. If you are not committed and have the intentions of removing the animal, meat, flesh, blood, fish, anything with heart from your foods consumed, all right, you will not get a strong source self connection. If you are in the red zone, you can verify other source players after a week of not eating animals with the intent of keeping them removed from your foods consumed. You have committed to the path and to the journey to connect with your source self. After a week, you should be able to answer the question of who is a source player in your immediate surroundings. Now, anything beyond that is asking too much, too soon. Now, you can start asking larger questions to obtain information about the game once you have reached level 5 and you have unlocked your script, which means you have a strong source self-connection. You have done the shadow work to get rid of the sin and karma programming, and you have a strong connection with your source self. Then you can start asking your source self questions that would be larger and more encompassing for information and knowledge about your life journey in this game. Now, for example, does it benefit you to be in a relationship with a certain person? At this now, you can get a yes or a no. When you start talking about future events, all right, I'm going to put this in two different ways, okay? The intent to move to a different area. It doesn't happen just in your now day because the move takes place over a period of time. And you would ask that question, but that question's answer could change. Now, I'm going to explain how that works, but you get an answer based on the way people and things are living their lives right now in this game. If someone was to change drastically, okay, their script, or make a choice within their script that would change things. In other words, if you said, well, should I be in a relationship with a source player? Would it benefit me? And it says yes. And then that source player changes and they start doing lower frequency behaviors or making choices that are not beneficial to themselves or to you, then if you were to ask your source self again, the answer would be no. Okay? Now, see, that's a future question. When you ask, it's based on people remaining in their current script. If things were to continue on the way they are right now, then it would be beneficial to you. Now, if you decided that you were going to go to a city to visit or do a trip to a certain city, and your source self says, yes, it's beneficial for you to on such and such day. And then the matrix program causes something to come up in that city. You see, it's future, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that had to happen, but there are a certain chain of events that happened due to other influences that created that thing to be in that place. Now, when I say future. When you ask your source self, it's based on things the way they are right now, okay? It's based on nothing happening in the city, nothing happening in your family, because children and spouses can make choices that can throw things off. And if a child gets sick, it may not be so beneficial to go on that trip. You see, these are future things. Right now, everything is good. It's all go. But when it comes time, the day of, you need to ask your source self if it will still benefit you, or if it should be delayed or postponed. You should always be flexible and fluid in choices that you are making and movements that you plan to take. It is most beneficial. So, that being said, I don't advise using the pendulum for investing, using the pendulum to ask if you're going to win the lottery. Now, the lottery is a whole other thing. It's not a high frequency behavior. And your intentions and your thought processes involved in why. Those who play the lottery are usually not, they have lack in their lives. And so they're looking for a quick fix, rather than doing the process to create abundance in their lives. But again, this whole thing about your intention, all right, the intent and the reason behind why you're asking the question. And a lot of times, whenever your intentions are not, you're asking questions that you really should not be asking your source self about, you may end up getting higher self, subconscious, higher self leadings. All right? Now, this is not to say that you can't use your pendulum to ask if you should sell a certain stock off, if you should do certain things. But you have to be aware that the motive behind, the intention behind the question, are you doing it in a way that is panicking or wanting something out of a sense of need, or are you neutral? And some questions, if you're neutral, why would you even be asking the questions? Right? You see, this is all stuff you need to be asking your source self if it benefits you. And you better make sure that it's your source self and not your higher self answering the question. Because you see, every source player is capable of overriding their source connection to influence their pendulum, to giving them their subconscious or higher self answers. You have to be neutral, and you cannot be advancing to the next question before the question that you've asked gets answered, because if you've already formulated the next question in your mind, then the pendulum can be answering the question you're thinking of and just totally skip over the previous question because you've already moved on in your mind. And your pendulum is not to be used in place of Google. All right? If you want to Google something and you can get the information on the internet, then by all means go and do it. Because you see, the pendulum is not made for something that is easily to access anywhere. This has to do with your journey and what benefits you in your journey. If you want to know something about someone and it's on the internet, then go. You shouldn't be asking about other people anyway, because this is really about you, and it should only be asking about who is the closest to you. And maybe if someone you think of and you want to know, well, yeah, you can ask if they're a source player or not. But other than that, it's only the people that are around you, and for your own life experience, for your own journey. It's your personal source self connection. And it has what's best for you in your journey to get you forward in higher frequency. And that's the most beneficial for you. Now, when I say don't ask future things, because if you're saying, well, is that letter going to come today, or is that check going to come today? That's dependent on a lot of postal workers or couriers. You know, are they showing up for the job? Did they call in sick? Did that truck get in an accident? All of these things play into a future date. So if you are, using it for a future forecast, you have to know that future forecasts are always subject to other source players and the program scripts that are running. Just know that things happen and you don't need to worry. Everything happens in its time and on time. And your frequency level determines what you experience and what you create for yourself in this game. Raise your frequency. This really doesn't apply to those who are in the red zone and choosing to stay in the red zone and have no intentions of removing the animal meat, flesh, blood from their foods consumed. Because what they're going to always get is higher self answers and not source self answers. They are incapable of having a source self connection. They have chosen to not raise and lift themselves out of the lower frequencies and make that connection to their soul cage. They have great potential, but it's only potential. It's potential if they make the beneficial choices for themselves. Potential. Make the best choices for yourself. Now, if you appreciate the videos and the information and what I have done for all source players in this game, then it benefits you to say thank you via a gift via PayPal. The link is in the description box below. Abundance, health, and prosperity to you.